to another great edition of The Lap Down. I am your host, Greg Farmer, and with me tonight is Ryan, Jamie, JP, and Alex. How are we doing tonight, boys?
Doing well.
Well,
Awesome. Awesome. I know Ryan's back from a couple of races in a row that we were supposed to talk about. We were on a brief hiatus due to yours truly having some health issues and other stuff going on in personal lives, but we are back. Before we start, as always, a big shout out to Will and the Alkali Project for the intro music and outro music on the show. Please be sure to check out their albums wherever you get your music. We are going to dive right in because we have a good bit to talk about from the last, I would say 3 or 4, maybe 5 days. Topic number 1, I was listening to the Teardown on Monday, and they started talking about the playoffs and the potential changes coming to the playoffs starting in 2026. And Jeff Gluck, who is one of the hosts on the Teardown, mentioned that he is on the playoff committee, and they had their, quote, last playoff committee meeting last Wednesday, where the sanctioning body, I guess, kind of listened to ideas and feedback on some of those ideas. And Jordan Bianchi mentioned on Door Bumper Clear last week about a potential change coming to the playoffs. And so here are some of the potential changes that may come to the playoffs next year and beyond. One of the talks was a 36 race season, point season. No, technically no playoffs, just championship or season long championship points. A 3-3-4 championship where they do 3 races, eliminate, 3 races, eliminate, and then 4 races to run for the championship, which based on the schedule next year, your 4 races would be Talladega, Phoenix, Martinsville, and Homestead. And another idea that was thrown out was a 5-5, where they run 5 races and then eliminate half of the playoff field, and then the remaining drivers run 5 races for the championship. And then there was also talks about expanding the playoff field or the championship field from 4 drivers to 6 drivers. And Denny Hamlin has already announced on Actions Detrimental that he is very much well against that. But starting with Ryan, how would you feel about some of those potential changes? And is there maybe a compromise in there somewhere?
Well, I think if you're looking for a compromise, I don't think you're going to find much closer to a compromise between the 36 race season people and the 1 race championship people than this 3-3-4 round that has been proposed. And honestly, as long as it isn't a winner take all, I don't mind Talladega being a portion of what could decide a champion, because they still have chances to try and remedy a potential bad run at Dega at the other 3 races. I mean, one bad run at Dega will not completely sink you if you can have a good enough day at the other 3. So, but I also, going to the other thing you mentioned there near the end, I do like the idea if you're going to have a 4 race championship round, having more drivers involved in that fight. That way there's more than just the 4 drivers, because if someone has a Josh Berry level collapse in that championship round, then you're down to potentially, 2 contenders? 1 contender by race 2 or 3? With still 2 races to go, essentially?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like the idea of a 3-3-4, and I've thrown it out there as a joke for a long time about having Talladega as the championship race, but as a smart ass joke, really. But to see it actually be part of what they would most likely call the championship round, with it being a wild card, and then you throw in Martinsville, where certain teams may be really, really good, and Phoenix, where certain teams may be really, really good, and then Homestead, which is a driver's track. I think it would be a good mix if they did a 3-3-4. But Jamie, what about you?
Sorry, I just got back over here. I don't know what we're talking about.
Oh, you're good. We're talking about potential changes coming to the playoffs next year and beyond. Possibly a 3-3-4 playoff where they do three races, and then four races for the championship round. A 5-5. Them expanding the championship driver field from 4 to 6. Like what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I personally I like the Final Four. I don't think they need to expand that. As far as the actual format is concerned, I do like the having a longer stretch. For because you said 3-3-4, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So if they do a 3-3-4, it would be, like what they do now, 3 races elimination, 3 races elimination, and then 4 races for the championship round, which would be Talladega, Phoenix, Martinsville, and Homestead next year if they did that.
Not at first I was going to say I was for that, but if you're going to have a place like Talladega, like in the championship rounds, I'm not for that. Too much of a wild card. Super speedways should not be in the mix when it comes to deciding like the actual champion. That's just my opinion on that.
I said that I think it's okay as long as it isn't the sole factor. I mean, you have 3 races to turn around potentially a bad race at Talladega.
I mean, in theory, that sounds great, but if you look and let's say one of the heavy favorites gets demolished and gets last place points at Talladega, and then what did you say the second race was? Martinsville.
It would either be Phoenix or Martinsville. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say for argument's sake, Martinsville is the next one, and they are by no means a consistent short track driver. That means they're already in the whole 2 races in, and I don't know if you make it into the final 4. I feel like it should. If that's the route that they're going to go with those tracks, I'm not for it. If it was anything else outside of the super speedway, I'd be for it.
Well, I mean, what's to stop someone from getting absolutely obliterated like what we saw with Josh Berry in the first 3 races of the playoffs this year? I mean, that theoretically could happen to anybody at almost any track.
Yeah. I mean, you could look at Tyler Reddick last year at Vegas. He flipped on the front stretch, and that pretty much killed his playoffs.
Yeah, I'm just saying super speedways are too much of a wild card for championship rounds. That's where I'm basing my argument's sake.
All right. JP, what about you?
So I kind of agree with Jamie. I like Talladega being in the playoffs, but not in the final round. And basically, kind of like what Jamie was saying. NASCAR's kind of thinking, okay, let's try this. Well, let's say you put Talladega in that final round, and a driver gets hurt or something. I'm just being real. And they're in the playoff, final 4, 6, or whatever. There goes their season.
I see where you're coming from on that argument. That was probably something that really none of us maybe thought about, but Ryan, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, again, similar to the idea of wrecking and being behind on points. I mean, an injury can happen at a lot of different tracks. And in fact, I think we've seen more injuries come from these kind of weirder impacts at the lower speed tracks. I mean, yeah, obviously you have Connor Zilic at Talladega earlier this year being a notable Talladega injury, but I mean, these cars, you can get injured in it at any of the tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alex, what about you?
I think if we make a major change to the playoffs, I like the season points, the 36 season points, and then have a championship race at the end of the season, because it gives more underrated drivers a bigger opportunity to win the bigger races like Daytona, Talladega, Martinsville, the bigger races that a lot of veteran drivers tend to win a lot more, or they do the 334. I think that would be another option too, because I feel like there might be too many big track races in some of these playoffs with the round of 8 and the round of 12. And I think if we cut that down and have more eliminations with the 3 races, I think it can make the playoffs more intense and make the races more winnable for some guys that struggle at the super speedways but also do well on the road tracks. So I think I like the season points and the 334.
All right. Well, I think I'm kind of in favor of the 334. It's just you guys know my stance on one big issue with how you qualify for the playoffs, and that's the winning you're in.
Yeah, that's the bigger problem.
Yeah, that needs to go away
Yeah,
because
before anything else.
yes, I mean look at Daytona a few weeks ago. Like we were probably there was a good chance, like a really good chance that Cody Ware could have won that race and would have been in the playoffs and would have literally, had a Josh Berry type like first round and would have been a first round exit probably after the first race of the playoffs. And it would have been a waste of a playoff spot. It needs to be about consistency throughout the season. Like Chase Elliott is one of the most consistent drivers in the field when it comes to, like, I know he doesn't qualify very well, but he's one of the most consistent finishers if you look at his stats. And kind of off topic here, but we are talking about, talking heavily about Talladega. I don't know if you guys heard, just throwing this out there, they were contemplating the idea of adding a 4th stage to the Talladega race coming up to minimize the fuel saving that they do on the super speedways where they go, 3 and 4 wide for a while. If they do that, we're going to see double wide all the way through the field and nobody can pass. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
That can I go first on this
Sure.
one first?
Sure, go ahead.
Um, that is kind of like saying, okay, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in this, and the monkey wrench I want to throw is like saying, oh, you don't want to challenge the drivers to save fuel and take fuel saving out of it, and you know and basically you're just taking away more green flag running that we might have, but versus yellow flag pit stops.
Well, the thing is, it's not the fact that, I get fuel saving can be a big thing sometimes, especially when you're coming down to maybe like a green, white, checkered situation. But the fact of the matter is it's the cars.
Yeah.
Like they cannot go 3 wide without getting off the throttle and saving fuel. Like we've seen it time and time and time again, with the exception of the Daytona race a few weeks ago, where they were, 3 and 4 wide for the majority of the race, especially coming to the finish.
I was
But
going to bring that up. So
Right.
good thing you brought that up.
but I was at the spring race at Talladega this year and last year. The final run of the race was 30 to 40 laps in both races, and they were double file both of those entire runs, and nobody could pass. The leader of the race, when they took the green flag for the final run, was the winner of the race. And that shouldn't be the case. With the old cars, you could go 3 and 4 wide without having to save fuel. They need to do something to fix the cars and not add a 4th stage to a freaking super speedway race and, pay out more points like they do in the Coke 600. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I already find the 4th stage at the Coke 600 a little weird, because you end up, that race is technically, if you did go back to the full 36 race season, that race is more valuable than any other race on the entire calendar. Now, something that you could do that would potentially make me be on the side of actually adding in the extra stage would be if it means less commercial breaks over green flag racing, because that has been a problem for a while at this point, that the commercial breaks over green flag racing. Looking at you, Fox. NBC does it too, but Fox definitely does it more. So if it was able to potentially limit the amount, if not completely eliminate full screen commercials over green flag racing, that would be, I think, the better way to pitch it. I'm still not completely sold, though.
Yep. And I'm going to throw one more thing in that JP said something, and it hits the nail on the head. It takes away green flag pit stops, essentially.
That too,
and that's one of the things that fans like to see, especially at the super speedways, because you got a pack of cars of like 38 to 40 cars coming off of turn 4, and then half of them peel off to go to pit road, going from 190 miles an hour down to 55. Problems happen, crash. Like I went at the Talladega race in the spring, their first round of green flag pit stops, freaking Kyle Busch, Blaney, and all them wrecked coming through the tri-oval because someone didn't get slowed up enough. We don't get, I know it's not supposed to be like an entertainment factor, but we don't get that entertainment factor of green flag pit stops. We don't get to see someone maybe make a mistake getting onto pit road or getting off of pit road and all that good stuff. It's literally just one stage, yellow flag pit stops, one stage, yellow flag pit stops. And it just, it kind of takes away kind of the exciting part of super speedway racing if they do that. What about you, Jamie? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
Just to add in real quick, because that's something that's been annoying me actually about certain other races. Looking at you, Phoenix. When they went to this whole trying to split up the stages oddly to try and make like stage 2 super long or whatever, it's like I actually liked it back when almost every race was basically you have a 25% of the race is stage 1, 25% is stage 2, and then you have the second half of the race, which was essentially your traditional race without stages down that final half of the race. But now it's like, okay, you break it so close to thirds, it's like, okay, you're racing to a stage for the entirety of the race.
Yep. What about you, Jamie?
So the original topic was them adding a 4th stage.
Yeah.
I'd rather them not add a 4th stage, just because like you guys have already said, one, it would kill any type of green flag pit stops that would happen. It's just like, yes, I know that they want them to go not save gas and everything like that and make it entertaining. That's well and dandy. If there was a concept that I feel like would be better, I would say once the 3rd stage hits, caution flag laps don't come off the counter.
But
to
then you
limit.
have the potential of a race taking 3 hours, or the final stage taking 3 hours.
Yeah, but it would eliminate all these like green white finishes and um or you have a yellow that comes out with like 15 to go at like a Dover or a well Dover's not going to be a thing, so let me use a different track.
Well,
Um
we're just talking about them adding a fourth stage for Talladega specifically.
oh, for Talladega specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just keeping it at like a super speedway. I mean, it's not terrible, but I it eliminates the implications of oh hey they're coming up for pit stops at 200 miles an hour. Who's going to end up getting hit with a speeding penalty? Who's going to end up colliding into somebody? There's a lot of stress that is built up into those moments when the manufacturer teams all come down at the same time, and that adds to the entertainment value. So if we're going off of the argument of entertainment, on I could see that a case made for a fourth stage. I could see a case made for keeping it at three, based off of how the drivers were run. Now, if we seen at Daytona most recently, if that has any implication, Talladega being in the playoffs, and again, I don't think it should be in a championship round, but if it was like the eliminator in the round before that, I could see that being a very entertaining race because you have a bunch of guys who are trying to get as high up as they possibly can to make sure that they advance.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from on that, but like I said a minute ago, you know, if they do a fourth stage with these cars, you can't go 3 and 4 wide unless you're getting off the throttle and saving fuel. If you're running wide open, it's just 2x2 all the way back, and you can't pass anybody.
Oh no,
So
I'm not arguing your part about the cars. I think we've all felt that way about the cars, and unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do when it comes to these cars. So, fourth stage wise, like it's not really. I'm on the side of the three stage, just to make this crystal clear. I'm not saying that the fourth stage is a good idea. I can see an argument as to why they will want a fourth stage, but I think there's more entertainment value with three stages.
what about you, Alex?
I do like Talladega being 3 stages. I feel like if we make it longer, it will make Talladega a bigger playoff race than Martinsville in the round of 8. You will make these drivers push a lot harder. You're gonna make them want to last longer on less fuel or tires that need to be changed because of it's a fourth stage. Let me push it a little bit more and risk crashing out or getting penalized because they're pushing way too hard. And with the round of 8 being 3 races, Talladega being short as it is, 188 laps, I do think it's reasonable to keep it at 3 stages because we don't want these guys to push and then be, too exhausted or the cars not work for Martinsville in a limited track. Well, if you're in the top 5, top 4, you're fighting to win Martinsville to advance to the championship. I do not think Talladega needs to be 4 stages. I think it's fine how it is. And knowing how Martinsville is eliminated, Talladega is more of a race for the guys that cannot make the championship for to just win money at this point and just to win just for fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to clarify, if they did add a fourth stage to Talladega, it wouldn't make the race longer. It would just shorten the stages that are already there. It would shorten the amount of laps in the stages. It would still be a 188 lap race. But right now, I believe the stages are what, 65, 65, and then
The
50,
rest, like 78 or whatever.
yeah, 70 something laps. So it would probably be like, you know, like 40, 40, 40, and then something there at the end. I don't know. But we're going to move on to our next topic. Something that was announced earlier today. Junior Motorsports has hired Rodney Childers to be the crew chief for the number 1 car next year in the newly named O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, formerly known at the end of the season as the Xfinity Series, that will be shared by Carson Kvapil and Connor Zilisch. Now, mind you, Connor Zilisch is moving up to the Cup Series full time, but it sounds like he will be running part-time in the Xfinity Series next year. I guess the number 1 car will be, quote, an all-star car. And that kind of signifies that Carson Kvapil does not have a full-time ride lined up next year. Now, with that, I was saying to our good friend Brandon the other day with the announcement of Randall Burnett leaving RCR to go to Connor Zilisch next year at Trackhouse in the Cup Series, that maybe RCR needed to pick up Rodney Childers to be Kyle Busch's crew chief for 2026. But it sounds like those plans may be out the window. But Ryan, what do you think of, or not Ryan? Yeah, Ryan. What do you think about Rodney Childers going to JRM next year?
I mean, I think he'll do a very good job. I think anytime you give him a ability to actually work on the car, because obviously he struggled with Harvick in the next gen era because of how little they could actually do to the cars. And I'm curious to see if maybe when he goes down to a series where there's a little bit more options as to how you want to play around with the cars, I think you could see him kind of rise back to prominence a bit, but you also go into a team that's already one of the best. I think there's a good chance that they'll dominate. I think the more interesting part to that, though, is Carson Kvapil not being full time.
Yep, and there was a rumor going around that there was a driver that had a development deal with Team Penske, and that rumored driver was Carson Kvapil, but it doesn't look like Chevy's going to let him go that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, initially when I read that, I was like, okay, is Carson Kvapil going to get a full-time deal in either trucks or Cup and run part-time in Xfinity? Because that'd be interesting.
Yep. Jamie, what about you? What do you think? All right. Jamie may be doing a little bit of something. Let's go to JP.
JP's here. You know, Carlton is a good guy. I'm sad to see him not have a full-time life, but I get it. And also with walking killers going over to that 1 car, I think Jgr Motorsports will win 7 races with walking killers with that 1 car next year.
All right.
I'll take the over.
Yeah, I was going to say Junior Motorsports has won like 17 or 18 races this year, and over half of those have been Connor Zilisch. Connor Zilisch, actually, an incredible stat. He has not finished outside the top 5 since the race that he missed after his injury at Talladega back in the spring.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't know how many races, because as a Cup Series rookie, he won't be subject to the same limits of only being able to run, say, 5 Xfinity Series races. So I'm kind of curious to see how many races Zilisch will be racing. But if, let's say, he runs all the road courses, that's probably going to be 4 or 5, 6 wins maybe.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They'll probably have him in that car for the road courses at the very least.
Well, that's the thing. He's shown enough promise that he could probably win at the ovals too. So it's like, okay, how many races will he get?
Yep. Alex, what about you? I don't know if you heard, we're talking about Rodney Childers going to Junior Motorsports next year.
I caught the beginning and end. My Riverside decided to freeze, so I had to get out and get back in. I don't keep track of team movements as much as I should. I'm not that big into shifts. I don't keep up with that, but I do agree with both your point and Ryan's point that I think Sillage is going to run the road courses more so than the ovals. I think Sillage is a better driver for the road courses than he is the major tracks. And I think he's on a good team that has a great driver for the big tracks. And I do think Sillage is a very underrated driver in terms of his performance level. He does do a lot better than most people think he does. He tends to run pretty decent. He doesn't really win a lot, but he runs in the top 20, top 10 more times than people think he does.
Wait, who are you talking about?
Sillage.
Zillage, you missed this part. Zillage hasn't finished outside the top 5 since his injury at Talladega back in the spring. He's got over half of the wins for Junior Motorsports this year, and they've won like 18 races.
Oh, okay. Well,
he's more than an underrated driver.
Yeah, I just people will overlook his team because of how he doesn't win the big tracks. He doesn't race them, and I think this is a good opportunity for Sillage to prove himself enough to possibly get onto the big tracks.
He's doing quite well on the big tracks. Like I said, he's got an incredible streak going. But I like Rodney Childers. I think he is a damn good crew chief, and I think that he could get that number 1 car rolling next year, and maybe even get Carson Kvapil a win or two. Because if you look at the stats, Carson Kvapil is the only JRM driver to not win this season. Now, granted, they have a few races left. He could still squeak out a win somewhere. But, yeah. Jamie, are you back with us?
Looks like
all right. All right. So we're going to go to our next topic. It was rumored today on social media that, as we all know, Chevy stopped the production of the Camaro last year in 2024, but the NASCAR Cup Series and the Xfinity Series continued to run the Camaro body style for the Chevy manufacturer brand. And rumors have been swirling all around about are they going to switch to maybe a Corvette body style, or maybe even jump ship and go to, this was a wild rumor a few months ago, Cadillac going to the Cup Series in place of Chevy. Yeah, I see Ryan shaking his head. It was a wild rumor, and people were even making concepts of what the cars could look like. But the rumor today is that Chevy may unveil a new body style for 2026 at the Roval coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm still on the speculation that it may be a Corvette body style, possibly. And the rumor has it that it's going to, quote, look radically different than what they are running now. So who knows what they may unveil. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on Chevy bringing a new body for 2026 and beyond?
As when it comes to the new body, I do feel like it's probably about that time of the cycle. We've had the Dark Horse, we've had this new Toyota for a couple years now, so it does feel like it's probably Chevy's turn to update their bodies. And obviously, if they're not producing the street version of the Camaro going forward, correct?
No, they stopped production of those in 2024.
Yeah, so it would make sense for them to update to a body style that is matches up with a current on-road version. Now, I will say I'd find it a little weird if they do the Corvette, just because that doesn't feel like it's in, not to get too stereotypical, but it's kind of not in NASCAR's tax bracket. So
that is true, but if you really think about it, Chevy really only has one sedan that would be considered a sports car, which would be the Corvette. Other than that, they have the little compact cars, and then their SUVs and trucks.
Yeah, and I'd have to take a closer look at it, but honestly, let me pull it up real quick. If you want to go ahead and let someone else go real quick while I'm pulling up thing real quick.
All right, let's go to Alex.
I do think it's about time that the Camaro finally gets out of the Cup Series and the Infinity Series. I do think Corvette is a good option for Chevy to go for the new body style. It seems like Corvette is a big body style in the Cup Series now. And obviously, with Toyota now making new body styles, I think Chevy needs to move on from Camaros for the Cup Series. It's a aging body style in NASCAR now. Everyone's moving more quickly out of the Camaro, and Chevy's just now coming around to it. It's kind of bizarre that Chevy kind of death gripped it for so long that they're realizing that no one just wants to drive it anymore. And I do think this is a good option for them. And I'm very excited to see how the car looks. I do, like Ryan said, I do have to look at it to see how it looks, but I'm excited to see what Chevy does. If the rumors are true, that it is Corvette, I think it's a good option for them. And I'm glad to see the Camaro finally leaving the Cup Series and going into the grave of retired body styles.
Well, let's not forget that, Dodge left NASCAR after 2012, but some of the lower funded Xfinity Series teams continue to run the Challenger body style for about 4 years after they left the Cup Series, or the
Challenger
Xfinity
or
Series.
Charger?
The Challenger. They called them the zombie Dodges. They called them the zombie Dodges. Like
Yeah.
what was it? Carl Long.
Yeah, I know that they ran it. For whatever reason, I thought it was Charger bodies that they were using, not Challenger.
In the Cup Series, they were running the Chargers. In the Xfinity Series, they were running the Challengers.
Okay.
But before Ryan goes, real quick, I just want to say, you're Alex, you're talking about aging body styles and stuff. What's funny is Sunday night after the New Hampshire race, I was out running some errands, and I was listening to Sirius XM NASCAR, and they were running a replay of the 1999 Cup race at Loudon, and Dave Moody said, "Here comes Tony Stewart up into second place in that Joe Gibbs number 20 Pontiac." And I was like, holy crap, I can't remember the last time Pontiac was in the Cup Series. But Ryan, what you got?
So yeah, I just went and looked through kind of the cars that are currently in Chevy's kind of current street production. And really the only other car that I think could make a feasible Cup car, other than obviously the Corvette, which obviously looks like a race car, would be if they made a sporty version of a Chevy Malibu. Would be about the only one, which, yeah, body style wise and looks, I think would look the part. I will say I think the name might be a little weird for the Cup Series, but then again, when have names ever been overly important? So
Yeah.
I sent a picture of that in the group chat in case anyone doesn't know what the Malibu looks like. The just kind of the stock version of the Chevy Malibu, but I think a sporty version of that could be not all that dissimilar from what the Toyota Camry on the Toyota body. Which reminds me, how long is Toyota going to let the Supra sit in the Xfinity Series and not move it up? I wonder.
I was going to say I do like the Supra bodies in the Xfinity Series and would love to see them in the Cup Series, honestly. But honestly, to your point, I did not think about the Malibu. I don't know if they still make the Impala or not.
I didn't see it on the list that I pulled up.
Okay, because I was going to say, I remember back in, the, late 2000s, early 2010s with the Car of Tomorrow, it was the Impala as the Chevy body. And it had that flat nose where they could actually push on the super speedways and stuff like that.
Yeah, so they've got SUV, Malibu, SUV, truck, Corvette, SUV, truck, electric vehicle, SUV, truck, van, truck, hybrid, truck, van, truck.
So really, the only two feasible options would be the Malibu or the Corvette, honestly.
Yeah, if they want to, unless they want to do something completely crazy and just to design a purely a race car that has no practical application to selling an actual car, which would seem a little weird.
Right.
But
Right. I mean, remember back with the car tomorrow, they did the Chevy SS, which did not sell very well for street production.
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen it. I've actually seen a few of those on the road here lately, and I'm like, wow, that's old. Um,
Yeah, because they were in the Chevy SS all the way up till the Camaro body came in 2018.
right. And if you look too at the Chevy bodies now, they don't actually say Camaro. They say Chevrolet across the back
Yep,
on the rear bumper. They
because
don't
they discontinued the Camaro name.
exactly. But I honestly could see the Malibu making its debut in the Cup Series. That would actually be pretty cool if you think about it. But JP, what about you, bud?
So, so I think it would be really cool for the Malibu to make the debut in the Cup Series. Um, the Malibu is a great Chevrolet band. I know because I know some people that have owned it, and I just think they need to get away from the Impalas and try something new.
Get away from the Impalas. What decade are we in, JP?
JP, are you still living in the 2000s?
Okay, yeah.
I'll say it's been the Camaro for eight
Come
years
on.
now.
Wow. Well,
It's literally we're coming up on like what 8 years of the yeah. Next year would be the 8th year of the Camaro.
whoops. I'm back in the day, aren't I?
Yeah.
Kinda.
Jamie, what about you? Are you still with us over there?
Hey, I'm finally back.
Oh, you're good.
You're good.
Do you know what we're talking about?
Absolutely no idea. Sorry.
No, you're
I'm not doing very good tonight.
no, you're good. I'll recap. So we're talking about the possibility of Chevy unveiling a new body style for 2026 at the Roval in a couple of weeks, and we're just giving opinions on what that body style may be, whether it be the what Ryan brought up, the Malibu or the Corvette or something like that.
I mean, I think it always seems to be like a rotating trend where between the uh, Chevy, Toyota, Ford, and it kind of goes in rotation. And uh, I think the last time that we talked about the new body system was the Fords, and if it if they are going to be a dark horse uh, team, no pun intended. Actually, I lied, all pun intended. Um, I don't know. It's cool, but at the end of the day, you don't really see many differences on these new gen cars. So this could be the indicator if are we actually going to see some actual like characteristics of each brand that will just make them be able to be easily distinguished while they're on the racetrack, kind of like how the Xfinity series used to be. Um, if that's the case, that would be cool. If not, then I don't know. I really don't have much of an opinion because all the cars look the same nowadays.
Yep. Well, I mean, it'll be exciting to see um, what Chevy brings up or brings maybe to the Roval. I'm hoping those rumors swirling around are true. But we are going to go into our recap segment. But before we do that, I would just like to say a special word from one of our sponsors. Hey guys, do you need a new diecast? Are you looking to add to your diecast collection just like I am? Then check out CircleBDiecast.com. They have the newest pre-orders and all of the diecasts that you can ever think of. Go to CircleBDiecast.com, go to checkout, and enter promo code LAPDOWN for $5 off at checkout. All right. We are going to go into our recap segment. The Truck Series and Cup Series raced at Loudon, New Hampshire this past weekend. It was a cutoff race for the Truck Series, and it was the first race for the round of 12 for the Cup Series. Starting with the Truck Series, same story, different verse. Corey Heim wins his 9th Truck Series race for the season at Loudon, tying the record that Greg Biffle set for number of wins in a truck season. And he could surpass him with a few races left in the season until Phoenix. But like I said, same verse, different race. My question to you guys: Corey Heim has 9 wins, possibly more, leading into Phoenix. It is clear that he is the championship favorite at this point in the season, besides maybe Lane Riggs, who would be his closest competition. How bad would it sting, and how much of an uproar would you likely see on social media if Corey Heim did not win the Truck Series championship come Phoenix? Starting with Ryan.
Well, I think you'd see more outrage if he was driving any other badge on that truck, but I feel like you'd see a lot of people who'd be absolutely loving it if Toyota were to lose another sure thing championship. Because honestly, Corey Haim's been the top 1 or 2 drivers for the last 3 years now that he's been in the trucks. He's been pretty much up there as 1 or 1A with guys like Hocevar. Now Lane Riggs has stepped into that, and Corey Haim's just been there, dominating alongside them. So, I mean, I would hate to see it for him because I think at this point he is definitely earned a shot at a shot to actually prove that he is a champion. But yeah, I feel like you'd see a lot of people who'd actually be celebrating it if he didn't win it.
All right, Alex, what about you?
As someone who doesn't keep up that much in truck races, I do think that people wouldn't be that upset if Corey Haim doesn't win, knowing how close of a margin Lane Riggs is to him. I feel like if Corey Haim is racing, continues to race as well as he is now, he's going to win pretty easily in the Truck Series for this year. But I do think the Truck Series is a definitely an interesting competition because some of these drivers get called up to the Cup Series. We saw, I think earlier this year, one of the truck drivers got called up to NASCAR. I think it was. So I think Corey Haim is a great driver. I don't think people would be upset if he doesn't win. I wouldn't think people would be happy if he does. I think it's just if he does race really well, he should win, and it's him. It's him and his car. And if he doesn't win, then it's his problem because he's the only one that can do this. He's the only one that can win if he knows the truck well. He can win the Cup Series this year.
All right. What about you, Jamie?
I I think it will be a shocker at this point if he doesn't win the championship. I'm just gonna make that plain and simple. He's just been on an absolute tear this entire season, and it's the type of season that doesn't come around too often in the truck series if your name's not Kyle Busch.
All right. Plain and simple, short and sweet. I like it. What about you, JP?
I mean, there's not much I can really say about Corey Haim. I mean, it's just pure dominance. So anything less than a championship at this point would be a major shock.
No. What about you, JP?
All right. So I'm going to say a name, and this might come to a surprise to you guys. Corey Haim has been dominating, and I believe it's going to come down to Lane Woods and Corey Haim. I think Corey will Greg Biffle this weekend. What do you guys think?
It's certainly possible. I mean, it's very, very much a possibility he could get his 10th win this weekend.
I'm sorry, 2 weeks from now when they're at the Louisville, because they're off this weekend.
No, it's a triple header weekend. They're racing Kansas this week.
Trucks are off this week.
Are you sure? Oh yeah, no, you're right. You're right. My bad. My bad. I'm going by the iRacing schedule because Truck Series on iRacing is at Kansas this weekend or this week. So, my bad. Okay. Yes, to answer your question, still, it's a very much possibility that he could dominate and win the Roval next week. We saw him dominate and lead almost every lap at Lime Rock earlier this year.
Yeah. So that's where I think he could set records. Now, how high will he get? That's yet to be determined.
Yep. I mean, the sky's the limit, really. But I mean, looking at the Truck Series playoff standings, you got Corey Heim, Lane Riggs, Daniel Hemrick, and Ty Majeski above the cut line. But then you have Tyler Ankrum, Grant Enfinger, Rajah Caruth, and Caden Honeycutt all within 7 points of the cut line. So what is the next few races? So you got the Roval, Talladega, and Martinsville coming up for the Truck Series. Anything can happen at those races. Now, granted, Corey Heim is 69 points above the cut line, which, it's pretty safe, but anything can happen. He could have 2 engine failures in a row and then be right on the cusp of the cut line come Martinsville. 69 points is what, a race and a half, if I'm correct, worth of points. Anybody? 69 points is like what, a race and a half worth of
it's a little over
points.
A full race if you're talking like a clean sweep of the weekend.
Yeah. So I mean, like, anything can happen leading up to those 3 races. But I mean, I agree with Jamie. It could be a total shocker if Corey does not win the Truck Series championship. But you could also say the same thing about Connor Zilich, who has been just absolutely dominating the Xfinity Series. If he doesn't win the Xfinity Series championship, where he's clearly the favorite, the uproar is going to be absolutely insane, especially for the person that he drives for, Dale Earnhardt Jr. But, I mean, I digress. But moving on to Sunday, the Cup Series race, and I'm going to start with Ryan's thoughts on this when I get done talking, because he was there in person. Ryan Blaney wins as Penske Racing dominates on Sunday. Joey Logano led a race-high 147 laps after starting on the pole. Blaney led 116 laps. And then Josh Berry led some laps. He was in contention late to win or to pass Blaney and win the race. And after we saw in round 1, Joe Gibbs Racing dominating the first round. Sorry, my cats are going crazy in the background back there. Joe Gibbs Racing dominated the first round. Penske starts out the second round with a domination, and Joe Gibbs Racing was nowhere to be found. But speaking of Joe Gibbs Racing, there was tension between some teammates that eventually came to a head mid-race, where Denny Hamlin just straight up dumped Ty Gibbs after they raced hard for what seemed like quite a few laps. So starting with Ryan, question number 1, what did you think of the race overall as a playoff race? And number 2, should have Ty Gibbs cut Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell, who was right there at the same time a break, knowing that they are playoff drivers running for a championship.
All right, so I'll start with that first piece. I think that, yeah, he probably could have cut his teammates a bit more of a break, but I also think that Denny Hamlin definitely should have handled that a little differently rather than junking his teammate and ultimately hurting his own chances to actually win the race at the very end. Because ultimately, the damage from that incident with Ty Gibbs hindered the 11 car the rest of the night or the rest of the afternoon. So, just on a purely for Hamlin's perspective, I think Hamlin should have thought a little bit better about protecting his own race car when he went and junked the 54. And yeah, probably the 54 probably should have cut him a bit more of a break, but it also doesn't seem like gets a lot of respect. Now, whether that's earned or not, we can debate till the cows come home about whether or not he's earned some respect from his teammates. But if you don't feel respected by somebody, why should you give them any of that respect back?
Yep,
So,
I agree. And before you continue, what happened on Sunday, everybody thinks back to what Ty Gibbs did to Brandon Jones at Martinsville a couple of years ago when they were battling literally for a spot in the Final Four to go to Phoenix.
didn't Ty Gibbs already have his ticket punched at that point, and then he junked the 19 who needed to win?
No, yeah, I think you're right. Yes, Ty Gibbs was
Slightly
already
different
in the Final
situation.
Four. But yes, but what I'm saying is he junked his own teammate who was trying to get into the Final Four. They could have had 2 JGR cars instead of one, and Ty Gibbs just said F it and decided to go for the win instead of maybe saying, hey, here you go, teammate, let's have 50% of the championship round here.
Yeah, and again, I think that's where it comes back to. We can argue to the ends of the earth as to whether or not Ty Gibbs has earned that respect, but one, a couple of key differences. That was on the last lap for a race win. So, I mean, you can look at that versus this battle, which was for what, 11th, 12th place in the middle of the race. Still a long way to go. It wasn't like, oh, it was the final lap, the last chance to try and win a race for Ty Gibbs. And then you've obviously, if you're talking about whether or not that should have a whole lot of impact, you also look at the fact that Ty Gibbs went through something major off the track, not more than what, like 10 days later. Yeah, that obviously, I mean, having, losing your father like that is certainly something that can definitely change a person. So, and honestly, we haven't seen too many antics like that from him outside of that example.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't point to a Cup Series example or an example post that incident where he used that kind of judgment or that kind of lack of respect.
Yeah.
That level of immaturity, I guess, would be the right term there, which, to his credit, he was what, 18, 19 years old at that point? So, shock and surprise, the teenager was immature.
Yep. Now, before we get into part 2 of how you thought the race was overall, I do have an additional question. This goes for everybody too. Yes, he does have the last name Gibbs. Joe Gibbs is his grandfather. We all know that.
Yeah.
But do you guys think maybe he might have some resentment, quote unquote, towards the team overall? Because one, he's the only Gibbs driver to not win this year. And two, I mean, he doesn't have a single win at all at Joe Gibbs Racing. And two, you had someone like Chase Briscoe come from a different team, come in, start winning all these poles and races. And, you got, Denny Hamlin winning 5 races so far. Bell's got 4. Briscoe's got, 2 or 3. And then Gibbs is just sitting here with a big fat goose egg. and he's supposed to be quote unquote the golden boy because of who his grandfather is. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that there's a lot of things that go into. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into any of these situations. I mean, I don't think we'll ever, unless Ty straight up says anything, I don't think we'll really know where he stands on that kind of thing. I will say something that definitely feels weird, at least from just kind of the optics, and this is something else to mention, is that Denny Hamlin doesn't even have Joe Gibbs Racing's best interests at heart. I mean, Denny Hamlin prior to this has been quoted as saying, "Yeah, if I had the choice between pushing Ty Gibbs or Bubba Wallace to a race win, I'd choose Bubba Wallace because I own the car." So I mean, that's where I've felt like that was a conflict of interest literally since 2311 was started, and I think that'll be something to talk about at a later date when probably after the season. But it does feel weird that he signed an extension after, so he didn't just go through with his previously signed deal, because I can understand having to honor the contract you signed previously and then potentially parting ways at the end of that contract to avoid conflict of interest. But nope, they just straight up signed a brand new contract this past offseason, I believe it was.
It was actually just a few weeks ago. He signed
Yeah,
another 2-year deal for next year in 2027.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, how is that not a conflict of interest to own one team but race for another?
It's always going to be a conflict of interest if you own a team and then race for a different one. But
Yeah, but again, I can understand if his agreement was with the sport was like, hey, I'll honor my current contract that I was under before I even started this team, and then I will move over to my own team and be a driver owner for my own team once this current contract is up.
right. Um, Now I will say this before we go to the next person. I've said this before on here. I I do not like Denny Hamlin as a driver. I like him as a person. I love his podcast. I listen to it every single week. But I think it would be absolute TV gold with the in the midst of everything that's going on between him and NASCAR and all that stuff with this lawsuit that we have talked about time and time again. If he won the championship this year and they had to present it to him on stage in the midst of all of this, and then right at the end of his, I guess, quote unquote acceptance speech, he just drops a bombshell that he's retiring from Cup Series and then just walks away. Doesn't honor the contract extension that he just signed. He just says, I'm done, drops the mic, and walks off with the trophy. But
I mean, I think him winning the championship in general would be very ironic, considering the fact that him and the sport at that point would be going straight from that crowning ceremony to the courtroom to go battle it out in court over the current lawsuit.
yeah. But let's go on to Alex. Alex, what are your thoughts on the race and the Ty Gibbs Denny Hamlin situation?
I think it was a good race, and I do think that Penske choke holding the race with Ryan Blaney seems to be Ryan Blaney has proven himself that he is not going to go down without winning this championship this year. He has won multiple races this year, multiple recent races up into the playoffs, and Blaney continues to run well in his car. And if Blaney isn't a clear cut favorite to win the Cup Series at this point, I don't know who it will be, because Ryan Blaney seems to be going down without a fight. He seems to be racing well and running well. If he doesn't win, I don't know if people are going to be upset if he doesn't win, or be like, oh, well, Blaney does Blaney things and he sells at the end where it matters most. And I think Blaney could win this year. And I think with the Joe Gibbs situation is Joe Gibbs, I think, is a great driver. He runs well in his cars, and I think it's not a Joe Gibbs problem. I think it's the car. I think Joe Gibbs has opportunities time and time again to get up in these races to try to win, and the car fails him, or he just cannot get passes. He seems to be stuck back end. I've watched races so many times with Joe Gibbs up in the top 10, in the top 15, but he falls so fast and so quick. So I don't think it's an interest problem between Joe Gibbs and Danny Hamlin. I was a Danny Hamlin fan. I think when he was either Joe Gibbs Racing or a different team before he moved,
He's
I
been
like
good
Danny
his
Hamlin. I do
whole
think he's a good
career.
driver. Okay, yeah. So I did like Danny Hamlin with who he was on Joe Gibbs Racing before. I think it was Kyle Busch left 1 or 2 years ago. So I think it's a car problem with Joe Gibbs. I don't think it's a Joe Gibbs problem. Or Ty Gibbs, excuse me. I keep saying Joe Gibbs, Ty Gibbs. I don't think it's a Ty Gibbs problem. I think it's the car problem. And I think if he gets the car fixed and gets his problem sorted, he might win a race next year, or even try to win a race in the playoffs. With the race in 2 weeks in October being a break in the playoffs. So I think it's a car problem. Ty Gibbs. I don't think it's a Ty Gibbs problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly this year Ty Gibbs' best chance to win a race was Bristol last week. Um, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he led over 100 laps, didn't he, Ryan?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was with all the tire issues that they were having, which you know that you know that was last week. I wish we could have talked about it, but that was a great race, obviously because of the issues that was going on and stuff. But no, I mean like Ryan said, Denny Hamlin's been with Joe Gibbs since he started his career back in 04, 05, whenever it was. And Ryan, you got to cut Alex a little bit of slack. He's technically a new fan, so you
Oh,
know.
Yeah.
But let's go
05,
to
05.
05. Okay, yeah. So, but let's go back to Ryan real quick.
When
And
JP, what was 05?
when Hamlin started his career.
That was 06. He was at the 06 rookie of the
Oh,
year.
yeah. Said my fault.
But let's go back to Ryan real quick to get his thoughts on the race overall, because I've been to two New Hampshire races in 2020 and 2021. They were both affected by weather. One of them was actually cut short due to them running out of daylight. Sunday looked to be on TV picture perfect as far as weather. It was sunny. It looked like they said it was 70, 72 degrees outside. It looked like
Pretty
it
much.
was like perfect weather for New Hampshire. So, Ryan, what were your thoughts just on the race overall?
So, first and foremost, this race should be in September every year. And it is a little bit of a shame that it's going to be an August race next year. Way warmer, way more uncomfortable for the fans in the stands. But yeah, far and away, the best race of the weekend wasn't the Cup race, wasn't even the truck race. I think the best race of the weekend has got to go to the Whelen Modified Series that ran their race starting at 9 a.m. in the morning. Got up early, made it to the track in time to see them race, and yeah, I think that they were the highlight of the weekend. Obviously, I posted over on my own channel some clips from that race, some not so flattering moments when drivers didn't seem to understand the concept of a straight line, but everything from that down to a last corner pass, and a driver winning the race on three wheels. That race was incredible. So yeah, we had yeah, that was absolutely race of the weekend. Trucks after that was also pretty good. As I say, can't really complain. Although once Corey Heim took the lead, I think everybody kind of collectively in the grandstands knew that it was essentially over. That there was not going to be any. That Corey Heim was just going to dominate the rest of the night or the rest of the day, and then the Cup race was really good. I mean, it was certainly an above-average race for New Hampshire standards, which have been a little bit subpar, falling victim to a lot of the same short track problems that we've talked about. But I really don't feel like, at least not in person, I don't think I really noticed any major short track downfall, any of the normal pitfalls that the current short track racing falls into. So, all in all, I love the weekend. Trucks was definitely interesting. Cup was great, and race of the weekend goes to Wheel and Modifieds easily. And more on that later.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention too that Goodyear brought a new tire for the Cup Series this weekend too, or at least a
Yeah, I
new
got
right
one thing
side
I want to
tire.
say about that too.
I'll go right ahead.
Playoff drivers should not be allowed to do tire tests for playoff tracks because Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney were both involved in the tire test at New Hampshire, testing this new tire. And shock and surprise, look at who the dominant cars were.
Yep. They were quoted to running 700 to 800 laps during that tire test back in the spring or summer that they did.
That's nearly 3 full New Hampshire races.
Yep. Jamie, what about you? What were your thoughts on the race weekend?
I mean, you guys kind of hit on like all the major talking points: the Penske domination, the impact of the tire test, the teammate turmoil, if you want to call it that. Man, I'm trying to think of like anything else new to talk about out of that. I'll talk about the Christopher Bell wreck incident. How he somehow avoided. That was the same spin out, right, with Ty Gibbs, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Christopher Bell avoiding that Gibbs.
Like how he managed to avoid Ty Gibbs and not collide with him is astonishing. And I know we see this on a week in, week out basis of either somebody spinning and we're like, oh man, how did nobody hit this guy? But then you see other spins where it's just unfathomable how within a millisecond of a decision making that is the difference between a driver having a messed up car and escaping. So definitely a better skill. I don't think we talk about the skill of these drivers enough. And this is some pretty tough competition in the NASCAR Cup Series from a skill-based perspective. But something I wanted to touch on earlier, talking about Ty Gibbs and him not winning this year. And is it Ty? Is it the car? Is it what's the issue? I think it's his driving style doesn't mesh well with this car. If they make a change to the car and it happens to fall a little like to where it's more of a driver's car, then you very well could see Ty Gibbs winning not only his first race, but probably multiple in a season based off of his driving style. He is an aggressive driver. He doesn't give anybody room. He blocks like the best of them. And yes, I think he acts selfishly. Yes, I think he's like, do you know what my last name is? This is my team. But it's one of those things where if his driving style matches the capabilities of the car, then we would be seeing some different outcomes coming from that 54 car.
So what you're kind of saying is like he's kind of like Kevin Harvick, because Kevin Harvick didn't really mesh well with the next gen car either.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
He's got a very old school method to his driving, where if you're going to pass me, you have to earn it. Not the, oh, you're my teammate, you're fighting for a championship, so I'm just going to let you by and have a great day.
All
and
right.
that type of driving style doesn't mesh well with this new age car.
I could honestly see that. JP, what about you?
One word. Bravo game.
Hmm? I have no
Say
idea what you just said, JP.
say that again.
Bravo gaming. You took everything I was going to say and you ran with it.
Okay, so technically you said 2 words. You said bravo, Jamie.
He can't count.
Yeah, math has never been the strong suit of this group.
All right. Well, moving on to the next. Just dropped my phone. Moving on to the next question, real quick. So we are now in the second round of the playoffs for the Cup Series, and we've been talking playoffs for the majority of the show. Right now, the top 8 above the cut line is Blaney, Byron, Larson, Bell, Hamlin, Logano, Elliott, and Briscoe. Now Blaney's already locked into the round of 8. Below the cut line is Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, Tyler Reddick, and Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace came out of round 1 50 points above the cut line, but now he is 27 points below the cut line after a subpar performance at Loudon along with his teammate Tyler Reddick. Starting with Ryan, who do you think gets eliminated after the Roval?
Let me look at the point standings again here. And say, obviously, this first race of the round was really not kind to Toyota, but more specifically that secondary Toyota team in 2311. I think for either one of those two drivers to kind of to make it through, I think they're going to have to show some speed here at Kansas this week. And if they, especially Bubba Wallace, I think if he can't massively turn around his current track record, I think there's a good shot he doesn't have enough to make up a gap at the Roval. Reddick, a bit better road course racer. If he can keep it close, I think he would be the kind of driver who might be able to make up a gap at the Roval. But then you look at the guys above him in the points: Cindric, Briscoe, Elliott. All of these guys are pretty good at road courses, and specifically Elliott's really good at the Roval. So I think
In the old car,
for both Reddick and Bubba, they need to make up a lot of points this weekend. Bubba more so than Reddick, but I think both of them are going to be on the hot seat to try and earn some of these points. But I don't think. I think for some of these drivers above the cut line, you also got to worry about padding some numbers because guys like Elliott, Logano, Hamlin, one bad wreck at Kansas, and you could see Reddick, Bubba Wallace, or last year's Fall Kansas winner Ross Chastain jump up above and move that cut line. Not to mention, we've seen Chase Briscoe win a couple of races we didn't expect him to this year. So what's to stop him from potentially going and winning the Roval? So you have Cindric and Briscoe say win those 2 races. Elliott starts to be in a little bit of trouble.
Yep. And also not to mention too that Kansas historically is one of 2311 racing's best tracks.
Exactly. They've got
stat-wise.
3 wins in the next gen car there.
Yep.
With Kurt Busch, Tyler Reddick, and Bubba Wallace, all 3 different drivers.
Yep. But then you were talking about, Chase Elliott being really good at the Roval and on road courses in general. That was in the old car. In the new car, he hasn't been so good at the road courses.
Yeah. Again, that's one of those things that, who knows? We could just see SVG dominate the Roval again. Yep. So, but yeah, again, that's one of those things that I think, Reddick and Bubba, they'll need major points this weekend. Otherwise, I think it's doubtful they advance. Cindric, I think, honestly, I just don't think he's going to have the same Penske firepower that that Blaney and Logano had last week. and I think that Kansas is not as good of a track for him. So if he wants to have a shot, I think it's going to come down to how he performs at the Roval. And then Ross, I think Ross, again, he has a good shot to run top 5 at this race and put himself ahead of the cut line to where he can try and manage the gap at the Roval. Problem is, managing a lead is not exactly Ross Chastain's MO when it comes to being above the cut line in points. He's really good at playing from behind, but say calm, cool, and defending and playing conservative is not Chastain's playbook. So,
Yep. What about you, Alex?
I do think that out of the 4 racers, the 4 drivers that are at the brink of elimination coming up to Kansas, I think if Ross Chastain can run pretty well and stay in contention to win the race in Kansas, I think he's a good opportunity to get out of the cut line. I think if Chase Briscoe falls off in this race and doesn't keep a good top 5, maybe top 4 lead most of this race, I think Ross Chastain has a good opportunity to shoot Chase Briscoe in the kneecaps and take his 8th playoff spot and advance to the round of 8. I think Chastain can run well enough that if Briscoe overlooks him just a little bit, I think Chastain can do well. And I do think that Bubba Wallace has struggled a lot recently. He has, like Greg mentioned, dropped dramatically from the start of the playoffs to now. And Bubba is basically fighting to win this race. If Bubba doesn't win this race, he can kiss his championship goodbye because Bubba needs to make up, 20, 30 points, which is him basically winning this race or running top 3, which Bubba has a very aggressive racing style that a lot of people do not like about Bubba Wallace. He tends to run tight, run close, and pass when passing isn't necessary. And it feels like this is Chastain's race to win if the other 3 drivers seem to just not be able to run well. So I'm making a bold prediction here. I'm going out on a limb here saying if Chastain runs well and Briscoe looks them, Briscoe could be out of the playoffs right now, and Chastain could take his 8th spot.
All right. Well, I didn't say that Bubba Wallace dropped dramatically. He just had a really bad race at Loudon. The first 3 races of the playoffs, he actually had the second most points earned out of all of the playoff drivers. He finished round 1 after Bristol he was 50 points above the cut line. So, I mean, he actually did quite well. And I don't know if you guys listen to like the other like racing podcasts and stuff like DBC, Teardown, stuff like that. There's a lot of those guys have Bubba Wallace surprisingly being a dark horse in the final 4. I mean, I don't know, but we'll see what happens. I mean, he's 12th in points, dead last technically in the playoffs, 27 points below the cut line. But if you look at the playoff standings, Blaney is the only one locked in. Second place is William Byron. He's 47 points above the cut line. That's not even a full race. So technically anybody above the cut line could have a bad couple of races and drop below the cut line going after the Roval. But Jamie, what about you?
So we're talking cut line drivers and likelihood of them making the next round.
Yeah, like who do you think would be the next 4 eliminated after the Roval?
After the Roval, Cindric, Chastain, if Bubba doesn't perform well here this week, he'll be on his way out. But he also has a race win at Kansas, so there's that. I haven't exactly been impressed with Reddick as of late. So I think if there is a driver that would fall out of it, it's either going to be Briscoe or Elliott are going to be the two that are probably going to fall out of it if there is somebody that comes out of the bottom four.
All right. Well, we all saw in the chats, during the first round, I knew, unfortunately, Alex Bowman was going to be a first round exit because of his 2 races at Darlington and what was it, Gateway after Darlington? Like he was, 35, 40 points below the cut line, and then he almost won Bristol. It seemed like he was going to, for a very brief second, it seemed like he was going to win Bristol. But JP, what about you?
I think he's still mourning the fact that his championship 4 pick of SVG is no longer in it.
I think he might be asleep because his phone hasn't moved in about 10 minutes. All right, well.
Oh, no.
We're going to move
on.
on.
Mute this time.
Yeah, at least he's muted. We're going to move on to one of my favorite segments of the show, green flags and black flags. And for our new listeners, green flags is something about the race weekend that we liked, and black flags is something that we did not like. And we will kick it off with the person who was there for the entire weekend, Ryan.
All right. So, honestly, I'm going to have a hard time coming up with a black flag. Actually, no, I got a black flag. I'm going to go ahead and give the black flag. I'll start off with the negative because I've got a lot of positive I want to say, and I've already started with a lot of positive about this race weekend. The traffic getting out of New Hampshire is a nightmare. They have a 13-mile loop of one-way traffic that you have to ride almost the entire way around to get back around the track if you miss your entrance into the track, or if the direction you need to go home after the race is in the wrong direction. It's a 13-mile one-way loop around the track, which is a nightmare to get out of. That, and you've got all the New England people who aren't exactly the most hospitable when it comes to letting other people in line. I mean, the way I always describe it is Maine and New England are the places where Canada sends all the people who are too mean to be true Canadians.
Just for reference, I know you live in Maine. How long did it actually take you to travel to New Hampshire?
3 hours.
Okay.
About a 3-hour drive.
Yep. When I lived in Connecticut, it was about 2.5. So
yep.
Kind of wish it was that COVID race in 2020 where they had limited capacity. I got
when you and I were both there, and they definitely didn't follow the COVID capacity procedure because there was definitely more than they said they limited to.
Oh yeah, but I was out of the parking lot in like 5 minutes when I got back to my car.
Yeah. Yeah, well, apparently this weekend was sold out. I'm not sure how because I was in a section of seats that were completely unfilled. So I don't know how it was a sold out crowd, supposedly. But
who knows?
yeah.
Well,
and then green flag, I'll go ahead and give it once again back over to the wheel and modified race because it was just that good. I mean, I already gushed on about it a bit, but yeah, the wheel and modified series, if you guys get the chance to see them at New Hampshire next year or at some of the other short tracks around the country that they go and hit up. I know they race Stafford Speedway, which you guys might know from the SRX series. They put on some good racing there too. But yeah, the wheel and modifieds, they are a joy to see whenever, wherever you get to see them. So,
yep. I think when I was up there, I heard they raced at Stafford, Seekonk, which is in Massachusetts, and Thompson, which Stafford and Thompson are both in Connecticut. And I wish I could have got to either one of those tracks to see them. I almost had the opportunity to go to the inaugural SRX race at Stafford, but tickets fell through on that one. But Alex, what are your green flags and black flags?
I think one of my green flags is that I personally think entering the NASCAR Cup Series, not just the playoffs, but the season in general, I think people were overlooking Team Penske drivers. I think specifically they were overlooking Ryan Blaney and how well he can run. He's a great driver. He runs great in the playoffs and the regular season. And in my honest opinion, he is looking at a clear line to win the Cup Series this year. He's the first driver into the next round, the round of 8. He has looked dominant in the past month or two, winning multiple big races that I don't think Team Penske does well running. I don't know the history on big tracks. I think Ryan and Greg can correct me on how well Team Penske runs on the recent big tracks with how well Blaney's been running so far. And I think people are definitely thinking Blaney might win this year. And if he doesn't, I don't know who else is up there to win. Maybe Kyle Larson, maybe Christopher Bell, who's been another dominant driver this year for Toyota at their cars. I think Bell might be another one that's up there. I think the black flag for me is probably the tension in Joe Gibbs racing between Danny Hamlin and Ty Gibbs. I think Danny Hamlin is a very emotional driver. You want to add to that, Ryan?
Yeah, I have your stat for your Penske guys on big tracks. Yeah, so
Hit me.
between the Penske guys, if we include Josh Berry and the Wood brothers, Joey Logano, his one and only win of the year came at Texas Motor Speedway at 1.5 mile oval. Josh Berry's one and only win on the year came at a 1.5 mile oval at Vegas earlier in the year. Ryan Blaney, his first win of the season came all the way back at Nashville, which was another intermediate style oval. So I would say that Penske has a very good shot to go ahead and double down this weekend.
Not to mention that Blaney won Daytona in the summer and Austin Cindric won Talladega in the spring.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those races drastically different, but still big track success.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, my black flag is the tension in Joe Gibbs racing.
All right.
Yep.
What about you, Jamie?
Green flag goes to testing out the tires, paid dividends, and just utter dominance from both Logano and Blaney. I didn't watch most of the race, but from what I've seen online and stuff like that, it seemed like the TV programming was actually good this week. So I'm gonna give them an honorary shout out just based off of some of the social media things I've been seeing online. Then black flag is just I don't know if it's I have a unique perspective when it comes to the Gibbs Denny Hamlin take on whether or not Gibbs should have gotten out of the way for Hamlin or and Bell. I don't know. It almost feels kind of personal when it comes to Denny because of the whole 2311 aspect. I don't know. Maybe I've just watched too many conspiracy theory stuff, and the fact that Denny Hamlin is an owner of 2311 and now all of a sudden he's not getting any slack from his teammates seems kind of weird to me. So if that's like coming from the top down, like because you're signing with 2311 and all of this, we're no longer going to be giving you the privileges of what other teammates would have. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, one thing I would say there is that it does seem I haven't noticed Bell or Briscoe. I mean, obviously they're in the playoffs still, so they're giving Hamlin more trouble. But yeah, Yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen any real tension between the other three. It's kind of been a seamless machine for those three, and then just kind of the and then it's just kind of Ty Gibbs who's sputtering along and having basically his own season completely separated from the other three.
I mean, I'm not saying that there's like tension with it. I'm more saying that like you only saw the tension with Gibbs, but I can point out to instances over the past few um, races where like Briscoe was running Hamlin pretty hard, Bell was running Hamlin pretty hard, and like a lot of people would chalk it up just drivers going at it, but at the same time, it's one of those things like why are they going as hard like when it comes to Denny? And I think there is an underlying factor of the whole 2311 versus NASCAR. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we'll get a more clear answer on that when and if Briscoe ends up out the playoffs. Because if he is still racing Hamlin as hard as ever, once he's eliminated from the playoff contention, I think that'll be more telling. Because obviously, as of right now, Bell and Briscoe are still fighting for their own playoff lives. In addition to the fact that obviously they're teammates with Hamlin.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that isn't true. I'm just saying that I think it'll be way more telling if it continues past them being out of contention.
Right. So I have two green flags. One is Mother Nature setting up a perfect race weekend for New Hampshire, which historically has had not the best luck with the weather. Most notably last year with the damp conditions and the rain tires. Christopher Bell won that race on rain tires. So thank you, Mother Nature, for that. And two, overall, I thought the Cup Series race was actually one of the better races at New Hampshire in recent years. I don't know if it was, a combination of, setups and the tires and stuff like that, or the weather or whatever. I just thought it was, a decent race, really, for New Hampshire standards. My black flag goes to someone that we mentioned earlier, but haven't really talked a whole lot about. Cody Ware. If you're going to wreck someone, do not go full Danica Patrick and wreck yourself while trying to do it.
And if you're
What?
gonna do all that, at least make sure you wreck the guy you're trying to wreck, because he missed the guy he was trying to crash too. So the only person that ended up with any damage was himself.
Exactly. So for those who listen to this and don't know what happened earlier in the race, Austin Dillon, I guess, got into Cody Ware and spun him around. No harm, no foul. He didn't cause any damage to Cody's car or whatnot. And then later on in the race, Cody tried to get him back, tried to spin Austin out, and ended up spinning himself out and just, I guess, destroying the front end of his car when he got into the outside wall and effectively ruined his race at that point. Yeah, that's like the number one rule of stock car racing is if you're going to wreck someone, don't take yourself out. But
Yep.
moving on, we talked about the racing at Kansas this weekend, which, we talked about it last year in the spring, had one of the closest finishes in NASCAR history between Chris Buescher, Kyle Larson. But the summer or the playoff race and the spring race this year didn't really provide or live up to those standards, I guess, that we had set for ourselves. Kind of subpar, if you will. But we are going to make our picks. And since JP looks like he's asleep on us, I will get his pick later on. But I have Jamie, Ryan, and myself on the wheel here.
What
Alex.
about Alex?
Alex can make a pick for fun if he wants to.
Right. He hasn't been here the whole year.
Yeah, I mean, he's not in the points, but he can make a pick for fun if he wants to. I know we talked, a few weeks ago, you will be in the points next year. And with our closing topic, I will say right now that points are tight. I updated the points the other night, and the top 6 or 7 in points are just separated by 11 points. So it's anybody's championship to win at this point. But I'm going to spin the wheel, and the wheel will land on the first pick of the night, and it will be Ryan.
All right, I get the first pick. I think it's pretty easy to go ahead and just assume that Kyle Larson is Mr. Consistency at these tracks. And anyone remember who won the spring race?
Kyle Larson.
Yep. And ignore the fact that that was the last time Kyle Larson visited Victory Lane. Completely ignore that fact.
All right.
Completely ignore that fact because that does not look anywhere near as good.
Next pick will go to Jamie.
I am probably going to go. If we look back at that race, Chevy pretty much ran away with it, even if you took all 221 laps that Kyle Larson led. There wasn't much of a fight, but if you were to go back to last year, that talks about a little different of a story here. So I'm going to go off of the time of year, and I'm going to go Christopher Bell.
All right. I respect that pick. Next pick will go to me. All right. So I'm torn between a couple of drivers, but I'm going to take the driver that Alex talked about earlier. I'm going to take Ross Chastain. And the final pick, just for fun, will go to none other than Mr. Alex.
I'll throw my hat at them for fun here. Why not? Why not, indeed? Unfortunately, Greg picked my upset pick of Chastain, but I'm going with the guy I've mentioned so many times in this episode. I'm going with number 12. I think Ryan Blaney is going to take it home. Oh, well, you can't really because he already advanced, so I can't really pick him, can I?
No, you can.
Can I pick him? Is he already advanced? Or?
No, you can pick him.
Yeah,
I'm still win the race.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ryan Blaney. Yeah, I'm gonna go Ryan Blaney to win another one back to back.
All right. Well, as always, I will get the rest of the picks later on this week. And right before we close the show out, we're going to go into another rousing edition of Jamie's Trivia. And for those of you who don't know, Jamie will ask a trivia question, and we will give an answer. If one of us gets it correct, we get 1 point added to our race picks total. If we get it wrong, Jamie gets the point. So, Jamie, what do you have for us tonight?
Yes, so doing something a little obscure. When it comes to Kansas, the talk of the town always seems to be about Chevy and Hendrick and the dominance there. But the Fords have been sneaky good. So my question tonight, at Kansas, which Ford driver has the most poles at Kansas? And this is all time.
Okay. Which Ford driver has the most poles at Kansas? All right, Ryan, you got a guess?
And like I said, this is only 4 drivers on this list.
Is it current or all time? Yeah.
All time.
Well, you said it was all time. My question is it did they have to have won their polls at Ford, or are or would they have to have just driven for Ford at one point?
I will be
That could
honest.
be
I
a big
didn't
difference.
go that. I didn't dig that far deep into it, but I'm based off of the stat list that I got.
All right.
I imagine that they had to be 4 drivers
All right.
winning the
Well,
pole.
and it's like Kansas Speedway hasn't existed for all that long. I'm gonna say let's go Carl Edwards.
All right. Alex, what about you? You got a guess?
I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go with Richard Petty.
Richard Petty never drove Ford, and Kansas wasn't around when he drove.
Oh shoot! Huh. This is
To
that shows
give
my
you
history in
to
NASCAR.
give no, you're good.
No.
To give you a little help, the inaugural race for Kansas, I believe, was 2000, the year 2000 or 2001.
I thought it was 02,
2000.
but yeah, early 2000s.
I don't even know 4 drivers off the top of my head, if I'm being honest, too. I'm just gonna say him because I know it's gonna be wrong, but I don't know 4 drivers that well. I'm gonna go Joey Logano.
All right. I am going to guess Dale Jarrett.
Not a bad pick.
So you are all incorrect. Ford
right.
typically does not typically perform well at Kansas. So the driver who has had the most poles is with the number of 5 poles at Kansas. And that driver is Mr. Happy Man, Kevin Harvick.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Jamie gets the bonus point. Would anybody like to double down?
All right.
Sure.
All right. So I was doing some Googling during the show, and the inaugural race at Kansas Speedway for the Cup Series was the year 2000. But who can tell me who won the Kansas Speedway Cup Series race in the year 2003? Ryan.
Newman.
All right. Alex.
Really, 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 really young when that race happened, so I probably couldn't even tell you if I even thought about it. I don't really have one.
All right. What about you, Jamie?
Let's see. You said 2003?
Yes.
Let's see. Bill Elliott typically did really well at Kansas.
But
But
it's farewell
I don't know. I think. Say what?
that would be his farewell season. You said Bill Elliott, right?
Well, I'm talking my way through that. He's not my pick yet.
Yeah, no, that's why I was just thinking
'Cause
about it.
Yeah, because I know he didn't win. You know what? I'll go with Ryan's pick. I'll go with Newman.
All right. Well, both Ryan and Jamie are correct. It was Ryan Newman, and he held off Bill Elliott to win the race.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did. He led the final 28 laps to hold off Bill Elliott and teammate Jeremy Mayfield.
Man.
How about that? But all right, so Jamie gets 2 bonus points.
Look up this race.
Jamie gets 2 bonus points, and Ryan gets 1. But that is going to close out our show tonight. As always, a big thank you to all of our sponsors, Circle B Diecast, as I mentioned before, Fubo TV, Smack and Sunflower Seeds, Sleefs, Century PC, and Fanatics. Thank you so much, guys, for sponsoring this podcast. But until next time, for Alex, Ryan, Jamie, and the sleeping JP over there in the corner, this has been the Lap Down, and we will see you guys right after Kansas.